Hello Junior Tuckies. In today's lesson in the exam preparation, I will be covering question 3, Analysing an Advert. I'm Mrs. Bredenkamp and I hope this lesson helps you out in your next exam. First up, let's look at the model that you should always use when trying to analyze an advert. It's the AIDA model. It stands for Awareness, Interest, Desire, and Action. Awareness would be the thing that makes you stop scrolling on social media, on Instagram or TikTok. Usually it's an image, brightly colored, or something quite shocking. Then underneath that we get interest. What holds your interest? What is the thing that makes you want to look deeper into this advert? It's usually the slogan or the information on the advert. Then desire. What is the desire of the marketers who made this advert? Is it for you to purchase a product or is it to inform you? And then finally, action. What does the marketer want from you? Usually this is to buy their product or know a little bit more information about their products. In the next slide, we will practice AIDA. Let's have a look at our practice example on the left-hand side over here. We have the adverts where a woman is smoking a cigarette, and you can almost see how the smoke is going over the right side of her face, making her look aged. And then the slogan says, "Your beauty up in smoke." So let's use the AIDA model to analyze what this really means. So awareness, definitely the image of an elderly lady immersed inside of the cloud of smoke. Then interest, the slogan, "Your beauty up in smoke." It gives clarity to what the aim of the image is. The desire is to warn customers not to smoke cigarettes as it contributes to the aging process, and then action for people to quit smoking cigarettes. Next thing that you should be aware of is the target audience. This is definitely going to appear in your exam. You need to think about who would enjoy this advert. Is it targeting women, men, teenagers, or the elderly? What colors are used in the advert? What connotations do they have? Like blue definitely has the connotation for boys or men. Pink has the connotation for women or girls. And what images have been used? What type of images are catering for a certain part of a community? You always need to think about the target audience, and that is what marketers always have in mind too. Now let's look at answering the question where you need to compare the visual versus the written part of an advert. This is an example question. Discuss how the written elements of the text lend in the understanding of the visual text for 3 marks. The way that you need to do this, you can see it's for 3 marks, you need 3 points. So break up the question. Start off with saying the written elements of the text explains whatever it is there, full stop. The visual elements is blah blah blah, full stop. And then in your third point, you need to explain how it lends to the understanding. So the written elements of the text helps the audience understand the visual aspect of the text by, and this is how you can answer this question now. You need to signpost, which is actually what I explained in the first slideshow of this series, your answers. It helps the marker understand you better and know that you understand the question. Now let's have a look at that very daunting comparing and contrasting question. This is often found in IB papers, but you can find them in DBE papers too. So this is usually out of 3 or 4 marks. That means you need to write 3 or 4 points. You need to ask yourself, what is it to compare? Okay. When you're comparing something, you need to find what do the 2 texts have in common? How is the audience able to see this? And then you need to provide evidence from the text. Then you move on to contrast. What is contrast? What elements of the 2 texts are different? How are they different? And then provide evidence from the text to tell us how they are different. Here are a couple of general tips from the GDE. Answers must be related to the product or to the overall message of the advertiser. Generic responses related to the values of the advertisement do not go far enough. Each answer should focus on how the advert will lend to the target audience purchasing the product. The candidates should not blare their knowledge of the product or related adverts with the actual content of the question. And then the jargon of advertising, like image, logo, and slogan, is always important to use. Now let's practice on the next slide. Section C, language in context. Now I would like to show you grade 11's the marking guideline that teachers get when we have a memo. Have a look over here. When we are looking at marking section C, spelling. So one word answers must be marked correct even if the spelling is incorrect, unless it's actually an error that changes the meaning of the word. So good news for that, if spelling doesn't count in this part, in question 3. Alright, remember if they are asking a proper language question, like turn the slogan from active to passive voice, it does need to have correct spelling. Then, in full sentences, incorrect spelling should be penalized if the error is in the language structure being tested. So that's exactly what I said right now. Then, if an abbreviation is tested, the answer must be punctuated correctly. Then, as usual, your sentence structures must be grammatically correct and give full sentences. This is always very important. And then where there's multiple choice questions, you can write the number or you can write the word out. Now, let's have a look at our questions. So, question 3, analyzing an advert. Let's have a look at the question paper. Alright, so it says refer to text D. Let's go have a look at text D. So you'll see over here I was working on it a little bit earlier. So, let's have a look at text D. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see the full scale of the picture. So it says look beyond the obvious. That's what generations as specialist insurers have taught us. While some insurers provide generic cover, we get close to your business. Very close, digging deep to unearth hidden risk. Often, what rescues you is the smallest of details. And then we have the logo over here, Markle, and the slogan, see what others miss. Okay, we have this first aid looking like a barrel type equipment over here. Okay, let's have a look at the answers, or look at the questions rather. Zoom in once again. So question 3.1 asks, how is the layout of this advert similar to an eye test chart? So firstly, let's look at what the question is asking. How is the layout of this advert similar to an eye test chart? And over here we have it for 2 marks. Very important that we know our mark allocation. So let's go have a look at how this looks like an eye test chart. So grade 11, if I had to zoom out once again, it looks very similar to an eye test chart if you have gone for an eye test before, where you have to locate or explain to the optometrist the larger letter, and it gets more challenging as you move through the test to see how far one can really see. So we can see over here that's exactly what this has done. The advertisers, or the advertisements over here, or the marketers here, have decided to make the information look exactly like a optometrist's test. All right, so let's have a look at the memo to see how they have worded it. So the letters on the eye chart start off extra large and get progressively smaller as they do here. So that's exactly what I was saying. The letters on this eye chart start off large and get progressively smaller as they are done here. Similar that to a optometrist test. All right, let's have a look at question 3.2. The final line reads, often what rescues you is the smallest of details. Write out the product slogan and show how this clearly links with this outline. All right, so the final line reads, we must understand, go look for it. Often what rescues you is the smallest of details. It asks you to write out the product slogan and show how this clearly links with this line for 2 marks over here. So let's go have a look at the last line. Often what rescues you is the smallest of details. And then if we have a look over here, grade 11s, we can see that the slogan of this company is see what others want or see what others miss. Okay, so this could be connecting definitely with the slogan, the fact that you need to see the details of things. This particular company, which is an insurance company, sees the finer details and sees what others miss, and that's important when you have an insurance company. So let's have a look what the memo said. So the slogan is, we see what others miss. You're going to get a mark for that. The slogan implies that they pay attention to minute details, or the smallest odd details are vital in the insurance business, and that is going to be for your 2 marks over there. Let's have a look at 3.3. So, is the illustration of a wine barrel with a first aid cross on its side appropriate or not? Substantiate your answer for 2 marks. So what is it asking you? Is the illustration, we need to know it's of the wine barrel with this first aid cross appropriate or not? Is it easy for the viewer to understand? And then you need to substantiate your answer. So you need to give a reason for your answer, provide evidence for your answer. And that is how you're going to get your 2 marks over here. So let's go back to the advert over here. You'll have a look. This is what they are talking about. It's a wine barrel. We can see the first aid cross over here. What that has to do with an optometrist does unfortunately not make sense to me. So I would have said the no option. There will always be a yes and no option as well in an exam. So for me, this would be definitely a no. Why do I say that? Because I do not see the relevance of this wine barrel relating to that of an optometrist tests over here. It just doesn't really make sense. And what even the optometrist test over here has to do with insurance company is also quite far-fetched for me. So let's have a look at what the memo says. So yes, of course, you can always use the positive answer. You can say that it implies rescue is at hand and that the safety and well-being of the client is very important. Or no, a physical lifeline is what needed. The illustration is too obscure, so too random, too weird, and doesn't relate to the insurance industry at all. Then, an important feature over here with a lot of these questions is that credits a mixed response with valid comments. So if you wanted to say yes and no, that is great, but you must be able to back up your answer, and that's where you're going to get the 2 marks. Let's have a look at 3.4. So 3.4 says, based on the details in the wording and the graphic, state clearly to whom you think this advertisement would appeal for 3 marks. Now, this is one of the questions or the way to word the question that I discussed in the previous slides. So we're looking at the wording or the written and the graphic or the visual, and state to whom you think this advert would appeal. So we have a 3-fold question over here, and that is why it's for the full 3 marks. You need to discuss the wording, you need to discuss the graphics, and then you need to discuss the target audience. To whom would this appeal? So let's have a look at text E. So text E is Big Book Swap 2014. Recycle your read in our Big Book Swap during March and April. Bring in your unwanted books to any Suzanne Dennis practice and take one from our selection home for a donation to our eye-related charities, or just 50p per book. Good vision is a vital part of the reading process. Regular eye examinations check your eyes are healthy, seeing well, and we are pleased to advise on the best spectacle correction and lighting. Then we have this Big Book Swap over here, See Read Swap, our little figurine with a tower of books behind him, and then we have the brands, the charities that are involved. So this question over here is asking about the wording, the graphics, and to whom this would appeal. So we need to chat about this wording over here, we need to chat about the graphics over here, and to whom would this appeal? Okay, so let's have a look at what the memo has said. So the advert would appeal to anyone who would wish to swap books or to read more books, to those who need their eyes to be tested, to people who wish to get rid of unwanted books, get different books, just basically to swap books out. And then, of course, if we're looking at the visual as well as the written words over here, the words explain to us what the charity is doing. This big book swap of 2014, it's giving us more detail, while the visual over here is of a little mannequin leaning against a tower of books reading a new book. And that is what they were looking for you. And now let's look at 3.5. What is the point of the 4 logos which appear at the end of this advert? So we need to answer the question, what is the point? What do we need to focus on? The 4 logos, and we need to do this for 1 mark. So let's have a look at the logos once again. It's called Galloway's Society for the Blind, Macular Society, RNIB, supporting blind and partially sighted people, and then fighting blindness. We could see this as companies, societies, organizations that are all trying to help people who are suffering from any type of eye disorder, and it helps them or hinders their ability to see. So let's see what the memo says. So these logos list the names of societies or groups to whom work to improve people's eyesight. So you could also say that they endorse the project, they support the project. And that is the end of question 3. That is the end of today's lesson. Next up is question 4, understanding other aspects of media.